projects?
Well, it's certainly not like the Greens to be mischievous. As I say, this Senate committee has been set up to investigate the current Queensland government and no one else.
But if I can just take the point in the motion, Kristina, it does say, which is clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, approval process for the development of projects for the export of resources. Now, what that means is, and it's an unchallengeable fact, that $40 billion worth of coal seam gas projects, Santos and British Gas, were approved without any environmental endorsement of any kind. And Simone Marsh, the environmental officer at the time, left her office, walked out, was utterly traumatised. She has spoken to me publicly. She's spoken to the ABC publicly. Campbell Newman got on the wagon and said, good, these are very serious charges. It will go to the Crime and Misconduct Commission. He said the Crime and Misconduct Commission don't have the power to investigate all of this. It remains utterly uninvestigated. $40 billion worth of projects. Now, this is what people are complaining about who are writing to you and writing to me about what's operative in Queensland. This is hillbilly stuff. I mean, you've been a planning minister. You know how difficult it was to get any project up.
Absolutely so. Yes, Senator?
Sorry, I was in Dalby a couple of weeks ago at a forum there on the very issue of coal seam gas. They're very concerned. Landholders and farmers are extremely concerned about the fact that at about 6 minutes to midnight during the week, a couple of weeks ago, that the Queensland government just ran through some legislation which virtually has given landholders and farmers virtually no rights when it comes to CSG gas. So what that really means is that they can drill for coal seam gas 100 metres from the farmhouse where young children are trying to sleep. I just think it's appalling and it needs to be looked into, and that's just one aspect. The Great Barrier Reef, of course, they're threatening to dump all the dredging onto the wetlands up there, and we all know that the water does flow eventually back into the Great Barrier Reef. So these are things that we're very concerned about. Also, the judicial process in which some of these bikie laws were created. The appointment of the Chief Justice is another one. The list goes on, and I just think, why would anyone not want a Senate inquiry into this Queensland
if I could just say sorry, Glenn.
No, you're right.
So if I could just say to you, and we're running out of time here, but we've had a Royal Commission, Kristina and Glenn, into, and rightly so, into the death of 4 young men in the pig bats business, the home insulation program of the Rudd government. But in the Grantham floods of 2011, 13 people lost their lives in the Grantham floods. That matter was never, ever investigated. Those people have had no answers. It is a massive cover-up. It is eventually going to be exposed, and I, for one, will be having plenty to say about that. And I'm certain there are people who have written to you who have written to me because I've told them to write to you to see whether or not there can be some answers to all of this.
It does raise...
I think this happens.
It's a very valid point, but I think it does raise the question, at what point does this committee have to say we're going to have to narrow down and focus on these things? At one level, you have right now, I would imagine, a range of expectations in the community that this inquiry is going to be able to pick up every issue and grievance, no matter how serious or trivial. Do you anticipate that that will be really the first order of business for the committee? Being very clear about what you can look at and you can't?
Yeah, look, we'll have to, obviously, we can't look, completely into every issue, but we'll certainly be hoping to, we're certainly happy to listen to all the submissions, and obviously people will be able to come along to the committees that we're going to set up in and around the state of Queensland. Obviously, we might not be able to deal with everybody's issue, but we'll certainly give it our best.
Well, Glenn, it's good of you to talk. I mean, I know from the correspondence I have, and I broadcast in those places, people just feel as though they've never been given a voice. And it's awful in a democracy. I mean, the argument against what you've done is that you're standing democracy on its head. It's undemocratic. I think it can never be undemocratic.
I've been mocked about the fact that people are actually ringing my office here in Brisbane and in Canberra, and they're literally crying over the phone to my staff and myself about their issues. They feel as though they have no voice. They feel helpless.
Absolutely.
They feel let down, and I'm hoping that this inquiry will enable them to come along in a safe, friendly environment to air their grievances.
Good on you, and absolutely right. And I mean, these people do have no voice, and they write letters, and the letters are unacknowledged. It really is a terrible state of affairs, and it's one of the downsides, isn't it, Kristina, of democracy? One outfit's got so much power that they just exercise it with absolute ruthlessness. And I think these people are going to be given a say. Hopefully what they say will be recorded in the Hansard, so there'll be a record there for everyone to read. Glenn, thank you for your time and good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Senator Glen Lazarus. We'll take a break, and after that we'll talk to the independent member of the Queensland Parliament, Alex Douglas, who's got a very proud history. His great-grandfather was the Premier of Queensland, and his grandfather was also a Member of Parliament. He has resigned from the Liberal National Party, the government in Queensland. One, I might have, out of 3 doctors who moved along on questions of ethics and principle. And when people of this status in the community decide they can't cop it any longer, surely I think the red lights are flashing. There's something seriously wrong. We'll be back to talk to Dr. Alex Douglas after the break.